You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Senator Kamala Harris, Senator Cory Booker went off on the floor of the United States Senate yesterday as Kentucky Senator Rand Paul stands in the way of passing an anti-lynching bill. Watch this.
The idea that we would not be taking the issue of lynching seriously is an insult to Senator Booker, to Senator Tim Scott, and myself, and all of the senators, past and present, who have understood this is part of the great stain of America's history. To suggest that anything short of pulverizing someone so much that the casket would otherwise be closed except for the heroism and courage of Emmett Till's mother, to suggest that lynching would only be a lynching if someone's heart was pulled out and produced and displayed to someone else is ridiculous. And on this day, the day of George Floyd's funeral, on this day, a day that should be a day of national mourning, Mr. President, in 2018, the Senate unanimously passed bipartisan anti-lynching legislation, which I proudly introduced with the only other black members of this body, Senator Cory Booker and Senator Tim Scott. It was a historic moment. It marked the first time in the history of our country that federal anti-lynching legislation had been passed by the United States Senate. It passed again by unanimous consent in 2019. Senator Paul is now trying to weaken a bill that was already passed. There's no reason for this. There's no reason for this. Senator Paul's amendment would place a greater burden on victims of lynching than is currently required under federal hate crimes laws. There is no reason for this. There is no reason other than cruel and deliberate obstruction on a day of mourning.
Mr. President, in February of 2019, this body did something historic. And I don't mean to be emotional, I'm raw this week. But I stood here with Kamala and we wept. And we talked about the hundreds of years, over a century, of effort to pass legislation, brought up and defeated time and time again in this body by avowed segregationists, and how proud I was that at a time when the partisanship is high in this country, we gathered together in one voice, 100 senators, to pass this exact same bill. Because there are good people in this body on both sides. And we were correcting a wrong of history. And nobody in this body needs a lecture on lynching and how horrible it is. Everybody in this body abhors racism and believes that this violence is unjust. There are friends of mine here. Unanimously, we passed that legislation. We made history on this floor. And this is why I'm confused.
Okay, so here's what I find to be very interesting here, Derek. This is a bill that is sponsored by Senator Kamala Harris, Senator Cory Booker, Senator Tim Scott. As Senator Harris said, it was previously passed in the Senate. What the House did was the House changed the name. Congressman Bobby Rush wanted Emmett Till's name on this bill. So Senator Tim Scott, he tweeted that, well, you know, there are a couple of ways that, I'm going to pull it up here. He said there are a couple of ways that this bill can be addressed. And so this is what he said. I want our anti-lynching bill passed as much as anyone, and I'm disappointed Senator Paul is currently holding it up in the Senate, even though we've already passed it twice the past few years. But let's not forget, there's another route for it to become law. For a year, the House sat on the already passed Senate bill Then they change only the name and send it back to the Senate. Speaker Pelosi can still call up the original Senate anti-lynching bill, vote, and send it to the president to sign. Let's get this done one way or the other. Here's the whole deal, Derek. Mitch McConnell could also just bring it up on the floor. But he won't.
Okay.
But he won't. So here's the deal. Okay, so if the bill is named, first of all, symbols do matter. Symbolism matters. So if the bill is named after Emmett Till, is that bad? Why not just simply Mitch McConnell bring it up on the floor, the hell with Rand Paul, pass it, goes to the president?
Well, the same way that you asked that question, why can't you bring back the original bill that everybody agreed on? And so while I was reading just now, I read what Rand Paul was holding the bill up for, and what he was saying is it's too broadly written. And so I'm wondering what the question of what the lynching is, because as it said in this bill, someone could be literally shoved down, and then you call, oh, he's lynching me.
No, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Senator Rand Paul is lying. Senator Rand, let me explain to you again, Derek, and I'll say it slowly so you can understand. No. I'm going to say it real slowly so you can properly understand. So allow me to fully explain it. You are an Omega, which is why I must say it slowly. And I'm a Kappa, so I might need to show pictures. I might need to show pictures as well so you can get it. What Congressman Bobby Rush said, I believe the name Emmett Till should be on this. That's what he said. Very good point. All they got to do is pass it. But Senator Rand Paul now is just bringing up all this other stuff, Rob, that ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
Yeah.
And so he is just trying to make a spectacle. But remember who his daddy is.
Yeah, remember who he is.
Wasn't his daddy also the only one who voted against giving the Congressional Gold Medal to Rosa Parks?
I mean, this is what Rand Paul, from my calculation, is doing. He's just signaling to folks, I'm still with you. I don't know when he's up for election, but this seems like a pure political stunt. I think it's going to pass. This helps him get in the news, saying he's fighting Kamala Harris, he's fighting Cory Booker. It's sad that he would use this at this time to do that, but I think all of this is a political stunt. I think it's going to pass. It'll pass with Emmett Till under his name. I just think folks are doing political theater, particularly Rand Paul, because he just wants to be Rand Paul. Rand Paul does this. That's why people don't like him in the Senate, including Republicans who will actually tell you that behind closed doors. I mean, they won't tell that out loud, but behind closed doors, most of them will tell you they don't like him.
And look, Wendy, it's real simple. How about Wendy? How about Senator Tim Scott show some guts and say, Mitch McConnell, bring the bill to the floor?
Absolutely. I think that, again,
Wendy, go ahead.
No, I think that, again, I think it's political theater. I think that that's what's going on here. You see Rand Paul trying to slow this up because that's really the only attention he gets is when he does stuff like this to get his name in the paper. But I find it so sad that it's taken 64 years for us to get here. Like, what is not common sense about lynching being an issue? Like, no one should be against this. But, it brings me to what else was news in this week where Donald Trump had talked about he wants to make an Antifa a domestic terrorist. But the Ku Klux Klan is not classified as domestic terrorist. So I just don't understand this backwardsness. That's not a word. I just made it up. That's going on in this country where we are dragging our feet for issues of equality. We're dragging our feet for issues of equity. This bill needs to pass. It's very simple. And if anybody has any wits about them, they need to just simply say, this needs to go to the floor and let us stop using the issue of race to create political theater, but rather use this bill to show unity in Congress that we will not tolerate racism in America any longer.
The bill right now is lynching. Right now, everybody in America is saying that Floyd, he was lynched. Well, he wasn't lynched. He was actually murdered. And so when we start talking about this lynching bill...
Actually, Derek, lynching and murdered, both, you're still dead.
No, I didn't know that. My dumb ass didn't know that.
Well, I mean, you sound a
Come
little.
on, I ain't know that.
You sound a little confused there. I'm just making sure.
Come on, man.
But I think when you look at this, we shouldn't be using it for political theater. But let me say this: the more important thing we need to do, get this passed. It's more historic for anything because what we really need to do is focus on real reforms, particularly at the state level, with policing. We need to focus on reforming mass incarceration, which needs to happen. These are things that can and should happen. So I do want to make sure that folks get past this. We're going to get past this. The real fight is going to come when we really fight for these when we fight for these overall protections that we need. We need to get the Fourth Amendment back as well.
And I can tell you who's going to be standing in the way of all of that.
Oh, of course, the President of the United States and most of the Republican Party.
And all those elephants.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Thank the folks with Ceek.com, Ceek.com for partnering with us. This is Mary Spio is the creator, the innovator, the founder of this company. She, of course, designed these 4D 360-degree headphones that are absolutely amazing. We've got a partnership with them, folks. If you purchase these headphones, you can use the promo code RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020. Simply go to Ceek.com. That's Ceek.com. Be sure to check it out. We thank them for partnering with us.